That's it. I'm done. No more Persona 3 Reload. No more Persona 3 at all. Based on my previous videos and some of the more off-the-cuff reactions during live streams, if you've been around for them, then that statement probably isn't coming as much of a surprise. But what happened? What finally tipped me over the edge? Let's talk about that. So a couple of weeks ago, I couldn't do the usual Saturday Persona 3 stream. I had some other business. I had a meeting booked with my players for one of the tabletop role-playing games I run and which are found on the Lawful Good Media YouTube channel. In fact, I'm in the middle of post-producing the second season of the game these players are on, Kernels of Mystery, a Kids on Bikes game, and we were discussing Season 3. Nevertheless, it meant no stream, so I decided, you know what? Let's do double billing for the next week. The same week I missed the Persona stream was the same week I gave up on Albatross, the hiking RPG, as the final chapter became too frustrating to play. It's been patched now, and maybe I'll revisit it in my own time and put it out as a standalone video, but stream-wise, I was done. So I had an opening for the Tuesday. So the plan was to do Tuesday and Saturday of the last week with Persona 3 Reload. That might not have been the best idea in hindsight, but to be honest, if I hadn't, would just have delayed the inevitable. The main issue, beyond anything, is that I find Persona 3 boring. I struggle to engage with it. I've read the usual comments regarding Persona 3's story, saying that it's a slow burn, and that's just incorrect. A slow burn needs tension. It needs mounting pressure, little by little, until you get to that big bang moment, that payoff, for all that tension. It can't be passive. Characters need to be doing stuff while that tension bubbles in the background. Slow burns are common in romance stories, and we've all seen what they're like. A lot of emotional and sexual tension, the attraction and the circumstances, internal and external, that prevent people from acting on their feelings until, little by little, it becomes too hard to ignore. The characters go through challenges, obstacles, and that tension builds in the background. The same applies to any story of this kind. You need things happening to both add to the tension and to allow for it to simmer in the background. And in Persona 3, there simply isn't enough going on. Or by the time the slow burn actually begins, for a good number of players, myself included, it's already too late. We've become poisoned to the way Persona 3 goes about doing things. There is too much time spent doing absolutely nothing. The stream on Saturday was the perfect example. We're introduced to the antagonist group, the hippie, the goth Lolita, and the dude with the briefcase. They're clearly coming after us, and they're active on every dark hour, and yet we still have to wait until the full moon for any sort of progress. And in the middle of that is the track team competition, where you spend about 7 in-game days just seeing the same cutscene over and over again, and you only have the nights available. And that cuts out a fair chunk of the social links and other activities you could be doing. And the only thing you get is 1 or 2 cutscenes in between those days, kind of progressing the story, but nothing actually of import happening. It becomes a 30-minute plus slog of just nothing. Your character, the main character, is doing absolutely nothing. It's too passive. In a game where by this point, you've been passively waiting for things to happen for a long while already. To make matters even worse, the antagonists, the Strega, talk a good game, but they're pathetic as villains. They actually try to build them up, so you're really looking forward to that confrontation, to fighting other Persona users, or that clash of ideologies. And yet when you do finally have that confrontation, they do absolutely nothing but spew platitudes and then lock you inside a facility with a shadow of the month. Essentially going the James Bond villain route of, I'll leave you in this deadly trap but won't stay to ensure your demise. I'm sure it'll all work out. It completely deflates the threat. Now if they'd arrived and just straight up tried to murk you, hell yes, I'd have been more engaged, and looking forward to whatever encounters came in the future. Because at that point, even if you win, then they can lock you in with a shadow to cover their exit. Means their threat is still there, you won this time because you had the numbers advantage and they simply underestimated you. And it makes more sense for them to lock you in with a shadow after they have depleted some of your resources. Tired you out. So the plot and pacing weren't doing it for me. But that's not the only reason I stopped. I also don't like most of the characters. From the party, I can count the ones I like with one hand: Yukari, Akihiko, and Kirijo. Not so coincidentally, they're my main party. I've gone at lengths of my burning hatred for Junpei, and it never got better. In fact, the beach episode made me hate him even more. At this point, any redemption for him, in my eyes, would only be posthumous, and a part of me kept going to see if they would kill him off. I've read that he has a big arc, but to be honest, I don't care. The 10-year-old Ken, he's barely there. Doesn't really mean much to me. They introduce him but do nothing with him. Which, again, that's not a slow burn, that's just not doing anything. If you want to slowly tell his story, then give him things to do. Create situations where we can engage with them. It doesn't have to be a full moon for things to happen. Things can just happen. And then there's the robot, who rubbed me the wrong way from the start. I guess it's creepy. Just from the get-go acting like a possessive girlfriend when you've barely met, and honestly, it put me off so much that I didn't want to engage with her at all. Plus, I kind of found my groove with my party, and I didn't feel like changing it up. I would only do that for the dog. Unfortunately, I stopped playing before the dog came into the party. And if I ever return to Persona 3, which likely will be in my private time, it's only for the dog. But I can ignore party members, because I just don't need to engage with them. The bigger problem in terms of characters were the social links, where more and more I found myself baffled at the characterization and the reactions the main character had to whatever he was being told, always acting like the relationship is this positive experience, where most of them are toxic as all hell. The Food King and the Executive, the Devil Arcana guy, are by far the worst. They're awful to engage with, to listen to, and yet every time, I think I'm becoming someone they can depend on. Like you'd really want to cultivate this relationship instead of just running for the hills. Boiling point though was the little girl, Maiko, who on the last level I reached with her social link, decides she'll run away to test if her parents really love her. And we don't get to say, no, don't do that, that's a bad idea. Instead she goes, I know I can trust you not to snitch. And that's what we go for. What? No. That's a bad idea, it's profoundly stupid. And yet, I think she's starting to trust me more. Rank up. What? Are you kidding me? What the hell were they thinking? The social links become increasingly deranged, and the character just goes with it. And with that, my disconnect from him as my avatar in the world just got worse. It doesn't help that there isn't any real benefit to the social links. The extra experience on the Persona Fusion just isn't enough. It's not worth it, at least not to tolerate the degree of insanity on display. This was a remake, and they added a bunch of new mechanics. Couldn't they have gone and revamped the social links so that each level gave you a new ability in the same way they work in Persona 5? Persona 5, granted, has way better social links, but there are still some iffy ones, and you put up with them because there are mechanical benefits. There is a point to leveling them up beyond just levels for the personas. That's characters and plot, but there's also a mechanical part, a gameplay part, that I couldn't deal with anymore. Now, Persona 3 Reload does a lot of good things. The theurgies are fun, and the unlockable personality traits from the hangouts are also cool. But the problem, the main problem, the bottom of the pit of hell, is Tartarus. Quite appropriately, in fact. Having to go back to the endless dungeon and knowing I have to clear it for the story just kills a part of my soul every time. Tartarus is boring. Visually, it's not interesting. The environments are bland. The monster design is bland. And when you think you finally escaped the blobs with masks, they get reused, and so you're fighting the same monsters over and over again, just this time a little stronger. Mind you, Persona 5 had Mementos, and Mementos isn't much better, but it's shorter, like a third of the length of Tartarus. I read that I had to go over 250 floors of Tartarus, and I nearly had a heart attack. It also doesn't help that in place of unique mechanics, the go-to move for Persona 3 boss or challenging encounter design is to simply remove any weakness from the enemy, so that the central mechanic of the game of exploiting weaknesses just goes out the window. Every boss fight thus becomes a slog, with enemies just becoming increasingly resistant to just about everything. You could keep having weaknesses, just make the boss have interesting mechanics to engage with, things that add a challenge and difficulty beyond making it so you cannot effectively use your arsenal. My fights in Persona 3 Reload had just become all about filling out the Theurgy bar, unleash the special attacks, rinse and repeat. So if I were to summarize the whole thing, Persona 3 and me just didn't click. I know some people love it and swear by it, but I'm not one of them. So that's it for the Persona 3 streams. I struggled to engage with the game, and I'm so bored by it at times that I'm almost certain that I fell asleep on the last stream. Basically, I blinked and 5 minutes had passed. That's not a good thing. If I'm bored as hell, I'm fairly certain you are as well. My commentary suffers, it's not fun for everyone unless you're getting a whole lot of schadenfreude in seeing me suffer. In which case, just go watch someone else. For now, this coming Saturday, I'll just do some Monster Hunter Wilds, and take my Machete lookalike on the road to Hunter Rank 100. It's been a while since I've played, but I've been dying to get back to it. I'm still not decided on what I'll do the following weeks. I don't know if I'll continue with Monster Hunter Wilds just on a weekly basis, or if I'll find some other RPG for the Saturday. For sure, I want Saturdays to be about RPGs because, I have Sunday, I don't have to be anywhere, and I can take the time to go as long as I need or as I want with any given stream. I mean, I could use the Saturdays to force me to finally go through the Atelier Ryza games. Or maybe try some other RPG in my backlog. Or maybe one of the gacha games like Wuthering Waves. We'll see.